Good morning. Welcome to Brandenburg News Network. This is Donna Brandenburg. It's the second hour of May 2, 2025, and welcome to our show. I'm going to go right now to a group that's been real patient on coming on this morning, to a group that's fighting some issues in Midland. And it looks to me like we've got a real problem, but they're exposing all the things that are happening with the bond initiatives and how they're being counseled on how to maybe leave some information out so that the voters don't really have a good amount of information. Morning, guys. How are you?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Mel,
Good morning.
you there? Oh, there.
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, Ali, and Free. Everybody's here. So, are you guys going to turn your cameras on, or are you going to leave them off today?
We'll need to leave it off for the moment. So.
Okay, no worries. Well, I want you to introduce this and just tell everybody what's going on. And if there's something you want me to share, just tell me what it is that you'd like me to share, and I will, in fact, try to put this stuff out, because it looks to me like we really have a big problem with maybe intentional misleading of the voters when it comes to bond proposals. Is that accurate?
It is. Unfortunately, it seems much of it's legal, as we have been digging into more and more information on this process.
Okay, the legal loopholes, like it happened with the ERISA Act of 72, as well as what I suspect is happening with Axe My Tax, as well as the bonds. People were going to have to get smarter. So tell me what's going on there, and what did you guys find so that everybody knows what's happening in Midland?
Okay, so just real quick, a little bit of background. Joe and I, we've been attending school board meetings for almost 4 years now, and sitting in those meetings, giving public comments, questioning things. We've had multiple FOIAs. We FOIA their agenda packets, which is the information the board gets to make decisions at each meeting, because we got tired of just hearing yes votes, but never knew what they were actually making those decisions based on, which I currently have a lawsuit against the district because of the fees they were charging to get access to that public data. So when this bond proposal came out, we noticed that they were taking information that we were hearing in the school board meetings, but it was being presented in a slightly different manner. And so we started to dig in and question things, and that's why we formed a committee called the Committee for Midland Students and Taxpayers to oppose the ballot initiative. And that's kind of when the resistance started. It is a $285 million bond, which over the course of the 33 years of repayment will end up being almost $500 million on the community, which is a sizable chunk of money. And you have a little graphic there that has the iceberg in it that kind of talks to the fact that we see above the water what it's costing, but there's so many other expenses and issues tied up in it that the people in the public don't understand completely. And we have actually even gotten the 3881 form that was filed with the state of Michigan Treasury Department for the bond proposal. And we did go back and FOIA and get the 2015 bond proposal, because that was also passed 10 years ago, and the community is still paying on that bond.
Wow. And do they have, I'm looking for all the stuff you sent me. You sent me quite a bit of stuff here. I'm going to see if I can pull some of this up. This is really shocking. So can you tell the attorney firm or the law firm that has been kind of, let's just say, coaching them?
Well, we came across a document early on in our campaign from Miller Canfield that, if you look in the PDF I sent document, it has links and stuff to those websites, that basically talked about Campaign Finance Act for school district elections. And so it gave them information on the do's and don'ts that a school district could follow in order to put a bond proposal in front of the public. So that's when we started questioning things, because it looked like some of the stuff was kind of skirting those issues. And so I sent an email to that firm thinking, they might be able to answer some questions. Instead, a week or so later, it was brought to my attention that the Michigan Association of School Boards had posted a statement on their website. And basically it was going to the how to back, it's called Backing Your Bond Initiative Without Violating Campaign Finance Laws. So yeah, that was one of the things that concerned us.
So this legal firm was basically providing cover fire, and the first batch wasn't good enough, so they refined it so that it was very clear that they did not need to provide any information that was counter to their argument. They just needed to provide the stuff that was positive to their argument.
So it's a sell job is what it is. It's a sell job on the population rather than actually informing them and letting them make the choice.
Correct. It was the unsuspecting public was only to believe what the school district said. And we have board meetings and other video clips and documents to show that they are constantly telling the public, don't believe anything that you see on social media. Don't believe anybody else. Only trust our data on our website. That's where the truth resides.
Oh, that sounds familiar.
Yep. So we weren't willing to believe that. So we've done an enormous amount of research and collected our own documents and information and dug into things. And that's where we discovered, if you see some of the graphics with the survey demographic breakdown.
I'm trying to get them to download right now. I'm having a little bit of a trouble with it. So
Okay.
Forgive me here. We can do the best we can, but hang on for just a minute and I'll try to pull this up here in a minute for us. But if you keep talking, I will continue
I'll add to what Renita's saying there.
Okay.
It seems like they've been telling the public to go to the source probably since their campaign kicked off, but their documentation wasn't even all up there. They're adding it, like, as Renita's asking, as Joe's been asking, as our committee's been asking, then it's suddenly populated over there on their website. But it wasn't there from the start.
Wow. So what you're doing is
they're not coming clean until they're asked about it, I guess.
Right. That happens so often. It's really, really sad. I mean, you would really wish that you had, I don't know how to say it, people that would just do the right thing without basically having to, just, I don't know. But it does come back to the fact that we have to hold them accountable. They're just not going to do it out of the goodness of their heart, because quite honestly, what I see is a lot of people that get into these situations. It's like the bottom of the barrel. I mean, they can't do anything themselves. So they try to get themselves into these positions because they really have no ability to do anything else.
Well, and that's kind of, Joe and I have been giving public comments for almost 4 years now at the school board meetings, dozens of times each. And the bottom line is we just want them to be transparent and open and honest with the community, because we elected them. But we did have a board member at one of our election cycles 2 years ago tell a group of people during a discussion for candidates that said, once you elect us, your job is done. And that is how he perceives his role on the school board. And he happens to be a lawyer. So
that's not helping his argument with me. I'm just going to tell you that right now, because the bar has done so much damage, just absolutely so much damage with, because it's not a license to practice law. It's a private membership association. Hate to be the bearer of bad news here, but I hope people understand the fact that the damage that the bar has done to the state of Michigan is shocking.
Yes, and we have 3 current lawyers and a previous one that are on our school board. So that is one of the issues. So
That's crazy. Hang on, I'm trying to figure out where I put this now because here we go. I'm trying to get to your documents because I had to save them all. Which one would you like me to put up first?
Okay, so the ones that have the ABC with some writing next to it.
Gonna have
ABB, sorry, ABB plus.
ABB plus. Don't have that. Let me try. Let me start here, and we'll see what I can do. Okay.
All right.
And,
But yeah, so what we found, like Mel was talking to, the documents that are on their website, we had a presentation that we watched on the 3 options for this bond potential back in October. And after the meeting, we went out to look at the slideshow online that they had posted. Yeah, that's the one of the do's and don'ts for the lawyers firm that we were using to try to determine if they were following the do's and don'ts properly.
Okay.
That I sent the question in about. But in the one that has the other information, what we found is they actually clipped the bottom off one of the slides that had some data that didn't support their narrative.
I'm going to assume it's this one right here. Let's see.
It's got a little red call out on the side. And
Yeah, I got it. Here we go.
Okay.
Okay, we're getting there. This is what I like about yes, Sean. Sean's writing in the private chat. So here we go. So there you go. Okay.
No, that's the one for that's a different one. There's
That's
one that should have like a big ABB plus.
And the circles in the middle of the slide.
What's that? Well, let's see if I can try it again. Hang on here a minute.
A big yellow B in the middle of the slide.
Big yellow V. I've got a couple of, there's a campaign finance, single pages, and there's one that says interviews. I'm not seeing that.
Okay.
Was that your last email or was it in a previous one?
It was in the last one, potentially. But
You know what? If you can put it in the private chat, do you see how to do that?
I can try. All right.
And then if you
While
put it in there,
she's doing that, the key was there was a unfortunate piece of data at the bottom of the slide that the consultants provided when it was published by the school board. They clipped off that unfortunate stuff at the bottom. And we called them out on it. Actually, Mel did, and we both all did, saying, where did this data go? And they reposted it with the incriminating information at the bottom, which basically said 25% of the people who were in the survey didn't like any of the proposals. So they put the full slide up there later on, and it was able to be seen. But
yes.
But we now see that they have since taken down a full slide and replaced it with the clip slide again on their website for the proposal.
So that bottom little section that showed that how many couldn't support either of any of the options presented to the public, they conveniently cut that little bottom section off, just the bottom line, one line there, they clipped out. And so then you were not able, the public couldn't even see that of the people that they discussed these different scenarios with, 26% of them didn't like any of the options. But they've come to the public and told them, oh, the community voted, and this is why scenario A is on the ballot. And the reality is there were only about 700 people that voted for that scenario A, and we have 46,000 voters in our district. I mean, there's 7,400 students, and so the school district uses a general term like the community voted for this, and they just assume there's a really big group and they just got missed. And the reality is it's less than 1,000 people. They only had about 1,600 that even gave any input on this whole thing. So, and I did, by the way, send in a FOIA recently asking the school board or the school district for a copy of all the documents that the consulting firm provided to the school board on this summary of survey results. And after several days, I got the we'll get back to you in 10 days with our extension, which of course they're lawfully able to do, but that would be after the election when they'll finally give us that data. So
Now your election is next Tuesday?
correct. It'll be Tuesday.
All right. Yeah, I think that's an awful lot of money for people just to rubber stamp without having their questions asked. But what's really interesting to me is how these local boards, township boards, school boards and such, how they will not answer the actual questions about issues going on. They gloss over it and they just kind of rubber stamp it. It's like our voices really don't matter because they're taking orders from above, from somebody from above.
Right.
That accurate?
Yep. It certainly seems that way because when we ask questions, we get very generic terms. Even most of their media marketing campaign is done in generalities. Very seldom do you get actual numbers. Like, for instance, they just did a purchase of a robotics building, $4.1 million. Well, we've been listening throughout this campaign for them telling the public, oh, this middle school that we want to tear down and replace because it'll cost too much to fix it. If the boiler goes out, it'll be $1 million. If the roof goes out, it'll be $3 million. We just don't have that money. And then poof, all of a sudden, last month at the school board meeting, they raised their budget by about $4 million for this year so they could make room for this potential purchase, which through a FOIA we found out actually a letter of intent was signed back in February by the superintendent. And they've had 3 school boards since that date. And only at the 3rd school board meeting did they finally actually bring it before the board for a vote for them to sign a purchase agreement. And but they found their money, $4.5 million for that project. And there's some memes that we do to try to get this information out and let the public know that, you know, we couldn't find money for that. We found money for robotics, but oh yeah, that all that security stuff and safety stuff we're putting in this bond, we don't have money for that, but we did for this building.
I hope that people understand how much manipulation is going on out there. And do you have any memes you can share with me about what they're doing? Because I wanna show you another thing that goes just to prove a point here on how manipulative these things are. I'm working with a group of people on showing what the DNR is doing to destroy our natural resources. This is a dam. It is approximately 20 feet across the top from here to here. And this is their justification for getting rid of this dam. This is maybe 8 feet, 8 feet there. And it's 3.9. I'm going to say probably 8 feet, 8 feet. And across there is 3 feet 9 inches, and there's normally wooden slats here. They draw this thing down 4 feet in one day, and it looked like it was intentional damage. And you want to know what the state is quoting to basically fix this, which this isn't broken. There's nothing here that's broken, but to manipulate the people, they're quoting $2.5 million to fix this. This is what's happening in our state of Michigan. It is organized crime. It's happening in the school districts. It is misleading. The DNR is on the top of my shit list right now because they're destroying this state. The school boards, with all of their wonderful barred attorneys and these planning entities like Fresh Coast, which is a globalist type organization steering all of these townships. This is what's happening. This is how they're stealing our state. It's a local level thing. Can you send me some memes here that I can put up on this?
I sent you an email with 3 of the memes attached to it.
Okay.
You know, this is kind of interesting because in the state of Illinois, in Chicago, they were going to put up one of those public restrooms that are made out of like concrete blocks that you go into and you go to the bathroom, right? And the city of Chicago quoted, I think it was like $2.5 million for one of these, right? But and of course, that money changes like 10 different hands. before they actually start working on it. And then by the time it takes for them to work on it and get finished, it's like almost 2 years later. Now, I have a contractor buddy of mine back in Iowa, and he built one for one of those small towns. It was $25,000. And he had it done in like 2 days.
Well, you know what the problem is? It's just like one of these things is nonsense, is that they got to have their buddies that are within, how do I say this? That are here, let me see if I can post this into the chat here a minute. That are doing all of the oversight and the engineering plans and the soil compaction and all of that nonsense. Mm-hmm. They're literally giving this work to their friends and buddies and padding the project. I can't. It should be way simpler than this, and it should be managed on a local level, that somebody's got, a backhoe and somebody else has got a cement company this should not come through the state. This should not come through these large entities. This is ridiculous.
Going back to the idea of priorities, they have already started to remodel this new robotics building for another $500,000. But in our new school bond, they're talking about they want to add some bulletproof glass to some of the schools to increase security. It's not important enough to do that now with the $20 million of extra money they put in their general fund recently, but it's important to remodel this building for 400 kids who do robotics.
Well, and why don't we go to the core of the problem here was, like, why don't we just, at least pretend that we care about upholding the law and sending some of these people that are unstable either to mental health facilities so they're not a threat to society. It's like, I've got a daughter she's really disabled and she's a problem. If she were out in the public, she would probably be a large problem. And I'm not going to sit here and paint a Pollyanna picture and say this is okay. When people are as mentally ill, I mean, look at the video we put out there that you had, Sean, about the zombie apocalypse. Some things we're just going to have to suck up and not make excuses for. We've got people that are out there unstable that have committed crimes and they just let them loose. So we're going to fix this by putting a bulletproof glass. Well, how much bulletproof glass do you have to put up to really keep people safe? More than anything they've got.
That's included in our bond, though. That's part of their safety features that they're talking about.
Oh my God, these people are stupid.
I work full time as a security consultant, and I've had 2 contracts with 2 different schools to actually present them a solution to their school security. And one of the schools, because of the type of the structure, the way the building was constructed, is just a ground level building that spans all the way across, about 200 feet. And I told them, I said, well, if the windows are an issue, I said, this is what I would recommend, is not putting bulletproof glass in, but take the windows out and cement block them up, just completely close them off, I said, when you're the bad guy and you're on the outside of a school and you can't see in, you take away a lot of their desires to begin with. But I said, there's other simple little fixes that they can do. They can put magnetic locks on the doors. They could put in what they call a standard operating procedure. This is something that the staff can do on a Saturday when there's no school, and they could run through an SOP, situations. But I said, it doesn't take a lot of money to bulletproof your schools. But I said, even if you bulletproof your schools the way a lot of people are suggesting, I said, all you're doing is you're indoctrinating the kids into training them to get ready for a prison life, because that's exactly the way your schools are treating their students. But I said, the real core of the issue is, and I told them they need to understand, it's a cultural problem. They need to change the hearts and the minds of people, and get back to just common sense practices instead of pushing for a lot of the propaganda that they've been putting out. But, I kept running into so much resistance from other schools. And the reason why, and the problem is the teachers' unions. If you're not in their teachers' union, they don't want you there. Why? Because they're more concerned about making, $250,000 salary a year.
And pushing drag queen story hour and all these other socially engineered nonsense projects. There's no education going on there.
No, not at all. It's all about indoctrination. And that's something that more parents need to rattle the cages of anything. Like my wife and I, we actually took our kids out of school and we homeschooled them. But we didn't have a choice to be able to put them to a public school. We couldn't afford a private school because that's like, I think it was around $8,000 a semester per kid. So we decided, okay, we're going to homeschool our kids. And what's funny is that when my youngest one went to graduate from high school, and she went and took her SAT scores, and she scored higher than everybody else in her class, like way, way higher. She's got offers to go to colleges and universities, but she was homeschooled for 4 years.
Yeah, one of the things we found when we were listening to the assumptions that were made on how this bond would be carried out, I'll let Joe kind of explain.
Their house of cards is built on many things, and including the millage rate and how much it's going to cost everybody. But as counter to the population surveys, they're assuming that the student population is going to go up 5% in the next 5 years. Was that 2.5% over the next 5 years, even though there are fewer babies being born in the state of Michigan as since the 1940s, which lets you know they're not coming. They're assuming that they're going to have an average growth of 1.65% in the taxable value, even though they haven't achieved that in 7 of the last 10 years. And they're also assuming that they will get a 4.5% interest rate on their bonds for the next 9 years. So there's all these assumptions to make their situation look rosy. If they screw up any of those assumptions along the way, our millage rates will be significantly higher than what it is they have predicted.
Well, and look what they're pushing for. They're going to push for that growth. They have to have developers. So when you look at how all of this kind of stuff like dovetails together, it's just crazy. BlackRock has been buying up single family homes. So guess what? That pushes the development, leaving a lot of them empty. 60,000 single family homes. And they're leaving a lot of them empty so that it pushes up property values and rents in the areas. And coincidentally, Axe My Tax is trying to help them get rid of the $50 billion tax liability on those with no answer to the loopholes, which is what these people work on. Is it's all loopholes. If we don't start questioning these headlines, because they're great at crafting them to lead us astray and saying, as to your point, they've never hit the predictions. Who's getting the contracts on these two? $6 million to repair the Northeast Middle School, 4.5 for the robotic building renovations. Who is getting those contracts? And I don't know if you guys noticed this, but I did. When they shut us down at COVID, now I want you to think about that. The words, shut down. We had so much money and so much wealth that transferred to these school systems. I've got a spreadsheet in the state of Michigan. And what did they do? All of them started building projects during COVID. Almost all of them did. And they were huge projects. And nobody's questioning this. How did they do this when there was a shutdown? How come all of this building and construction went on? New schools, remodeled schools, added on schools, additions. I mean, it was unbelievable, the money that was going around this state. And who were the contractors that got the bids? How are they tied in with these people making the decisions? Because there's money going back. It's just like somebody put Wanda Lulu put out here. It's true. It's like most people don't even know that the courts have a department that they fill out forms from your straw man. Money goes to judges, attorneys, lawyers. Then the living man pays it out. It's absolutely true. Low birth rate in Michigan, and everyone moving out of Michigan, are they out of their flipping minds?
Well, and what's interesting is they have been able to take information and very selectively, like school of choice is something that is not mandated, but optional for school districts. We've noticed in part of this campaign marketing they're using is they're talking about how overcrowded a couple of our elementaries are. Therefore, we need to build a new elementary. Oh yeah, and put pre-K in all the buildings, which is also not a mandated initiative. But in so doing with school choice, buildings that were already past their supposed goal of 85% utilization, they still allowed a bunch of students to come in out of district to fill those buildings. And then they create a narrative that says, oh, look how full we are. So, oh yeah, and by the way, they've tore down 5 elementaries in the not too distant past. And now they're coming back at us going, oh, now we would like you to build a new one. And so the taxpayers have been kind of fleeced on all of this. It's a lot of different information and moving parts. So there's no way for us to easily educate the public. So that's why through our website and through some newspaper ads and things, we've been trying to get as much information out there as we can to say, this is not as rosy as it appears. They're showing all the nice shiny projects that everybody will get. They've been blasting the parents of the students with emails telling them, oh, if this passes, because they can't say vote yes, but they'll say, if it passes, look at all the bells and whistles and shiny objects you'll get to vote on and your students will get to have. And so that's also another one of those things we were questioning, going, they're using the emails that parents gave them to communicate about student-related issues and school-related issues, but instead they're blasting them with these. They're sending mailers and flyers home.
Propaganda. What's your please give me your let's see, hang on a minute. This is what you do when you multitask poorly. What's your website?
It's Vote No MPS Bond at Weebly.com.
Vote No MPS Bond.
There, I stuck it in the chat.
Let me see. You're putting it in the chat for. Okay, here you're putting it in the Rumble chat. Which the problem is, you want to know something? I can't effectively grab it. It's off of Rumble, but I got it here.
That's okay. In the Rumble chat, I also put a link to the document that I provided you that has a lot of the talking points and graphics with it. Just because this thing is so multifaceted that the public just kind of sees one little pamphlet and glossy that says, oh, it's for the kids, and that's all that matters is it's for the kids. And they like to move the public with emotions. And so one of the narratives is, well, if you are against this, that means you don't care about the kids and the teachers and education. My parents are retired school teachers, so I have plenty of information that says education is very important, and we do support education, but we want effective education, not shiny buildings that just cost the community a lot of money, but are not doing anything to improve the academics of our students. There's a graphic that I sent you that shows the amount of money that is going to cost per pupil. So our spending for administration and expenses is going way up. Our enrollment has stayed pretty steady, and our academic achievement has dropped.
What is the graphic that you sent me?
It'll be colorful, and it's got 4 different lines on it, a red line that kind of goes up in a peak to show that it's definitely not moving in the right direction.
Okay, we're gonna have to try to put that out there later. So we'll see what we can do.
Right. One of the keys that we keep running into is allowing, especially senior citizens who have always voted for bonds, always voted for things, to let them have permission to say this one's too much, because they're always in the habit of saying yes, and they're feeling guilty about not saying yes, but they're starting to realize, I can't afford to keep paying more and more in taxes. I'm going to lose my house.
You know, and I have a solution. I think I have a pretty good, viable solution to this. You know, if the Board of Education were to pay the parents to homeschool their kids, you know, say the stay-at-home mom, she could actually have a salary teaching her own kids, you know, education. I think there would be a more positive outcome, and it would save like millions and millions of dollars worth of taxes, having to go out and build and construct these buildings or whatever proxy projects that they want to, have to spend that money on.
There you go. There you go.
The graph that Renita was just talking to is on that homepage. If you go down some.
Perfect. This works good. It was taking a minute to come up, but we endeavored to persevere. We got it. Okay, here we go. There we go. Wow, you guys have really done a lot of work. This is fantastic. I love it that you're not cookie eaters and coffee drinkers. You're actually working.
We are trying to educate the public. We know these off-season elections are there because they don't want anybody to show up. One of the things I did was get information last year after our May election because we had a special millage renewal, which of course wasn't going to increase anybody's taxes. Well, kind of. But I found out the district spent $133,000 just on that campaign, and $85,000 of it was just for the cost of the special election because they chose to do it in an off season.
That's why these people could never make it out in the private sector because they have no ability to make good, sound financial decisions. It's incredible.
And not only that, only 17.5% of the voters showed up. And so basically the 82.5% let the other small portion decide the next 10 years of a millage renewal with no input on their part. So one of our goals in this whole campaign has been to educate the public, kind of like a big government class. And so we actually mailed that flyer that you were just looking at. It's a 2-page flyer, and that information was sent out to 21,500 households, which comprised the 46,000 voters.
Which flyer are we looking at here?
That what you're scrolling through right now is part of the 2 pages. That's the back page. But it was to give the community, one, to make them aware there was an election, because for the most part, people had no clue until our signs started popping up around town. And the other was to give them some information. And again, we want them to go research, look at our data, ask us about it. We'll give you the sources. It's all publicly available information that we've used to create this information gathering. And we wanted to make sure even people that have never voted before realize this is going to affect you if it passes for the next 33 years. And it doesn't matter if you're a homeowner or a renter, one way or another, it's going to impact you. And it's going to impact the community. They chose to make this a 25-year bond instead of a 15-year bond. And that one fact alone is going to cost the community an extra $88.5 million in interest over that extra 10 years that we're paying on it. And that's just a waste of money. Nobody makes money except the banks. The community, the communities, well, at that point, though, by being 15 years versus 25, the only people in that extra 10 years are the bankers, because that's just interest, and that's all money that does nothing to help the students, the teachers, the community. It's just money out of all of our pockets for that extra 10 years. But it was the only way they could keep their millage rate low enough for some of their talking points that, well, see, we're still going to be a little lower than the people around us, even with this increase.
Did they not even think through that maybe all of this was a bad idea, the ones around them as well as themselves? We're going to look at failure over here and we're going to compare ourselves to that failure and see we're not as bad as that, so vote for our failure. How's that?
Well, and don't worry, because it's all for the kids. Again, it's just the emotional drive, and they've gotten all the local business organizations to buy into it, so publicly come out in support of it. A few of the local elected public servants have come out in favor of it. Of course, the majority of the school board members have been out there with a little Vote Yes logo on their Facebook pages and answering and challenging anytime any of us post stuff. So we're just doing our best. We want to make sure we have a huge turnout, way bigger than most May elections ever have. We also want to have informed voters. We want to make sure they've done enough research to know what they're voting on. I don't know if you can find the graphic on the ballot language. People think they're actually voting on something in particular. And the reality is what's on the ballot, it's not the new elementary, it's not the new middle school, it's not the majority of what they've told us. Instead, it is strictly, here are your very general infrastructure terms of what you're giving a blank check to the school board to use over the next 10 years while they're actually getting the 4 series out.
Can you tell me where to click to bring that forward?
Let me see. I'm trying to remember which link it's under.
And thank you for scrolling that homepage. There's also 13 more tabs there. If you can't tell, we're data people.
Oh, I love
So
that.
we provided the links to get people researching, and yeah.
Okay. So where do you want me to
But,
click?
Mel,
Is it on?
where's the information on the actual ballot language?
You know what? I don't think we have it on here. I'm going to add that today.
Yeah, I think we have it on.
We have it on the social media.
On the what?
We have it on our Facebook page.
Yeah, we'll have to get that because it is just critical that people understand the whole school board. At some point, we have new people all the time coming on. They can pivot, and that, in fact, the board member even told us that during one of the Q&A sessions, that if something changes in the next few years, we can actually pivot and do something different if the needs change. So what we're voting on is really a blank check, because that's all it's going to ultimately do is give them $285 million to see what they need to.
Right. They claim that they've passed audits on the last bond, but all the audit does is check the classifications of what happens, not the individual projects. So you can still pass your audit, but have done something very different. Matter of fact, they found $10 million extra from the previous bond. And it's like, well, okay, that doesn't necessarily mean you actually did everything you said you were going to do. You did stuff. And they overestimated by 10%, which is significant.
And yet they didn't fix the boiler and the roof on the middle school that they went around and took pictures of and told the public how bad it was and it needed to be repaired, even though that money was supposedly in the last bond, but they never did the work. And so those are the kind of disconnects we try to point out through video clips and different things to the public to go, they want to talk about an aging facility, but are they actually mismanaging the maintenance of it in order to make it look bad enough to tear down rather than just fixing it?
I saw like 3 schools when I went up to Gladwin this week that were just completely abandoned out in the middle of nowhere. I was really shocked at how many of these things are around the state of Michigan. Totally abandoned buildings. Looks like it was completely devoid of maintenance. And you can't tell me that these buildings can't be maintained for the schools that they're in. I mean, look at the National Historic Districts around and people like myself save buildings that are, way over 100 years old that we put the time and the effort in them, and they're much more complex than the schools that have been built in the last 60, 70 years. So you can't tell me that they can't be salvaged if they continue to do the maintenance. But it's like their normal MO is that of a parasite. They just consume. They continue to consume.
And they keep changing the concepts so that everything looks new and different. Like, for example, in the 2015 bond, we got one brand new elementary school, state-of-the-art architectural awards, new furniture that lets them move around and do all this open floor plan, community or group activities and stuff like that. Well, it turns out that the new school has the worst reading levels for third graders in the whole district and has a lot of maintenance issues already. And so it's like, we've already done the experiment. Your new and sexy stuff is not holding up versus the classic way of teaching.
It's for the teachers. It's for the staff. That's not for the kids.
Right.
Yeah.
So We do have the ballot language up there. It's just not front and center on the
where-
resources tab.
Okay.
We have a 100-page presentation. There's a video of it.
Is it under
But this is just
resources
the-
or where is it?
So very at top, just the slides, it's called.
Okay, hang on. I don't see it. I'm
I
sorry.
emailed it to you too. So
Okay.
There's so much information.
If I go here, you're going to have to walk me through it. See if I can find it this way. Where do I go?
So go down slightly where it says just the slides. No.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Yeah, click on that box right there.
Got
It'll
it.
open the whole presentation.
There we go.
Page 70.
Page 70. Okay, hang on. Figure out how to work this a minute.
we've tried to do our best to educate the public and give them all kinds of opportunities to check out information. And that's why we ask them to just spend 1 hour and watch our presentation and then decide how they want to vote. But at least give us a chance, because this is going to affect them for 33 years. It's not a 4-year election, a 6 or 8 year election. This is 33 years of impact.
With no accountability or standards that they have to meet. It looks like there's
Right.
no actual accountability on this at all. Am I
So
correct?
if you read that stuff in the red box, that is literally the bond language, the ballot language that they're voting on. So it really is a blank check to do any of those things in the school district that the school board deems appropriate in the superintendent.
And I'd like to see, like I said, what are the connections between the school board and the legal entity that's advising them and the contractors that are getting the bids. That's where you start seeing the money laundering. They would never do that. Come on, Agnes and Millie, let's go have a coffee, because these are nice people. No, we're talking organized crime.
There are so many layers of things going on that there's just no way to present it. And so that's why we try to do enough to make them at least question, is it really as it appears, before they vote next Tuesday. And then the important thing is they get out and vote.
Do you have a video presentation on the site somewhere?
Yeah, it's on that same page of resources,
Okay, hang on a minute.
I
Let me
believe.
poke around on this just a little bit. Okay.
It's on the homepage, actually.
Homepage. All right, let's go there and walk me through this so I can find it for you.
Toward the bottom.
If you scroll down,
here.
right there.
Is that it? Okay.
Yep.
Is this, I got to be careful because you put it on YouTube, so I don't want to get a YouTube strike, because whether you give me permission or not, they'll give me a strike on this.
I know. So people can go there. We're going to have a discussion about the MPS bond that's on the ballot on May 6th. I'm part of the committee for Midland students and taxpayers. And we're the ones sponsoring all of the yellow and black vote no signs across the
Do you have an original file that I could put up?
Yes, that's my Patriot Grandma YouTube channel that goes to, which is
Okay.
where I put all the videos that we clip from public comments at our school board meetings and other resources, to let people.
I can let this presentation run here. I can post links to it, anything you want. If you can give me
Okay.
the original file, I'll go ahead and post that, and then people can watch it.
Okay.
Whatever I can do to help you guys, I do this all for free. So,
Right.
whatever I
So
can help.
do we. We are not paid to do what we're doing.
That's what I love about the people that are coming on here. You know what? We're just people that are sick of their crap. That's what it
Right.
is.
One of the other issues that we're really trying to push here, this is only our second bond. We had done sinking funds before, which is pay as you go. This one, if we pass this, it's laying on top of the 2015 bond we're still paying off. They've already told us they're going to come back in 2030, 2035 with another bond, which will lay on top of this for an even more extended period of time. So we're essentially setting ourselves up for perpetual bondage with this whole activity. So we're trying to break the cycle now before it gets out of hand.
Well, it's already out of hand, it looks like to me, but somebody's got to stop and question it. But I think that's great. I really think what you guys are doing is spectacular. I love this. How many people do you have in your group up there of trying to get the word out? And is there anything that I can help with that?
Well, at this point, because we're a few days from the end of the campaign, we've had about 7 of us. 3 of us are the highly active, doing most of the website and graphics for all the public presentation. We've just had something in the Midland Daily News. We were able to put the Spadia, the little wrap that goes over the Thursday paper, for the last 2 weeks. So it just came out yesterday again with a lot of information about this, trying to get that information to a public. Like last year's election, 64% of the voters were 64 and older, and 78% of that vote passed by absentee ballot. So our goal is to get the people to the polls next Tuesday and get them to actually voice. And at some point, yes, we strongly believe it's the wrong thing to do to pass this, but we want people to get educated and get involved in this whole process of government like they were supposed to do as part of their civic responsibilities. And there's a graphic I use frequently, and it talks about the fact our silence is our consent. You're consenting to the will of those that show up and vote. So that is part of why we're doing this, is going, how can we educate the masses that it's important that they learn about what's on the ballot and then they vote. It's not an emotional thing. They need to actually collect the fact, do some research. Don't let just one group tell them how they should vote, but look into what is really on the ballot, what they're really approving, and the fact that it is literally a blank check to do things. It's not the shiny, glossy flyers they've spread all over the community at all their 60 plus presentations. So
yeah, it isn't that's kind of weird. Really, really sad that they've got, but this is how propaganda works. And who is funding all of these activities? There's a question. I'd love to see, I would really like to see all the connections. Sometimes if you get into an investigation like this, which is what I really like to do, is to look at the connections that all these people on the school board and the attorneys have to other organizations, to see who they're in bed with. You could see that with Goshen Plant, with their little China scheme going on there, and how much money Gretch the Wretch has put into China and their contacts. $7.15 million was another latest little faux pas that got out in the public. But watching this, but you can see the connections to the MEDC, Michigan Economic Development Corporation, the Right Place, all of these things. These people can't stop themselves, and they keep recycling back into the purview. If you're looking, I'd really like to see if those entities are involved in it, or if we could connect the people in MEDC and some of these other organizations. They're nothing but tyrannical theft mechanisms that they've installed within our government. All of these unelected, unconstitutional organizations that they have weaponized to the population. It's incredible.
Right.
So,
and it's hard for us to obviously get behind the scenes and all the finances. So that's why we've kind of challenged it out with the public data that we do have access to, so people can check our resources and the information we're sharing. I know at first there was an argument by a school board member that, oh, well, it's like a mortgage. Nobody ever asked for the bottom line. You just know how much money you borrowed. And we're like, no. It is $500 million because it's $487 million estimated with interest. So just to say it's $285 million is ignoring the $202 million of interest that doesn't benefit anybody but a necessity. So
I want to have everybody ask some questions here, because I think this is really a significant bit of information to bring up. Okay, how many ways can they continue to extract money from everyday Americans And all of these things that are set up to, trigger our emotions, how many more ways can they do this before we get fed up with it and say, we're done? When have they given any of you out there anything that's actually made your life better? I'd like to have one instance that somebody could tell me that we're getting a return on the extorted tax dollars that they're taking from us. I'm not seeing anything. I'm seeing the everyday American having to work harder. They're manipulating inflation. They're manipulating the tax dollars. They're manipulating our property values. They're manipulating the insurance that's going into this. They're manipulating the education process, and we're getting no outcomes. I'm sorry, but people are getting dumber. All you got to do is look back in time to the 1930s, the 1940s, what they were able to do and engineer without having somebody, babysit them along the way. We can't even read. I can't even hire somebody right now who can't get off their phone every second of the day, or worried about what they're going to be drinking or who they're going to be sleeping with on the weekend. It is absolutely, I don't know if the younger people understand how badly that the DNR and Eagle are destroying the state of Michigan. I just came back from up north, and I'm going to thoroughly document this, but this is a destruction. This is a complete destruction of our nation going on. And until people wake up, you're going to have nothing unless we start fighting this together. And I don't mean as Democrats or Republicans, because they're cults. They're absolutely a threat to this nation. The political
they're two sides to the same coin, basically.
Yeah,
they're all in bed with this.
And that's why even with this bond issue, this is not a Republican Democrat. It is very nonpartisan because it is all the taxpayers funding. And I know the school board likes to try to use a little narrative that says, oh, this is just $1 a day, just $1 a day for 33 years with inflation. So actually $100,000 house taxable value over 33 years is $18,000. So it's just $1 a day. But if you take in the assumptions of inflation, it actually adds up to a significant amount of money. And again, the bulk of that is going to the banks.
And look at how they gaslight everybody. You don't care about the children. If you cared about the kids, you'd be giving them an education instead of funding these huge unions and such, because the kids are getting left behind. I don't care what anybody says. They don't need these ridiculous palaces and not come out with an education, but just indoctrinated to the teeth and destroying families by putting them into every cockamamie scheme to break the families up.
Well, like John said, if we just take the money that we're giving in the school system to parents to educate, we're at about $15,000 per student a year for education. That with our budget amount and our attendance, that is where we're at. It has gone up. It used to be about 10,000. Now we're up to almost 15.
Wow, I didn't know that. The last time I saw that, is that with or without the meds for ADHD to medicate our kids into a zombie state, or is that just straight cost, education cost?
That is our cost if you look at our budget versus our enrollment. And that's what that one little graph showed with the red line that was going up and up. We have consistently added overhead of administration and DEI coordinators and SEL counselors and all these other things to our budget, and we have directors for this and that, but they like to go, but we're actually not that bad compared to some other districts, so we're really in line, but we're just going, but it's so much money that we're spending, and yet academically we're not gaining ground. So
what are they proving with a ridiculous statement like that? How dumb can you be?
Well, they like to challenge us out on Facebook and tell us we don't know what we're talking about. And they just make blanket statements without a lot of numbers and facts to back it. So that's why we're trying to produce those numbers and facts so that we can do it.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and cue this up a minute. This is about, an hour-long presentation?
Yeah, that one's an hour. And we've got it set up so you can download it directly and have it available. So
I can go ahead and play this one and just let it play out if that's what you guys would like me to do. And let this play for people to watch if they'd like it. What would you like me to do? How can I be most helpful?
That's fine, or by sending them to our link. It depends. It'll be on your replay, I guess, if it's out there recorded, which is fine.
I don't want to take away from your audience, though. If you'd rather have me put the link there, I did put the YouTube channel there, and you know what I'll do? I'll put this on my Telegram channel if you want to find it there.
Okay.
Or like I said, or I could just let this thing play and people could push this out here while you're talking. It's up to you. I'm just here to help.
Right. Well, like I said, we want people to be aware of this, and people that are fighting bonds in other communities, just to be aware of what school boards and districts are allowed to do when they present information to the public. They can omit any data that doesn't support what they're trying to get pushed through. So if they want to clip a slide and remove unfortunate data, or they want to only give you generality facts instead of giving you all the details, that's perfectly legal, which is really sad. So the people need to understand how easily they are being manipulated if they don't actually take the time to dig in and educate themselves before they go to the polls and vote.
In
Okay,
fact, MPS even turned off the Wayback Machine for a while in order to not have records being created that we could go back and find.
Oh man, these people are going to stand before God someday, and it's not going to be a good moment for them. So I tell you what I think would be a cool thing to do. Okay, I posted the link on my Telegram channel, which is at Brandenburg #4MI. And Sean had a song that he wanted to put out there, that because Sean's been doing some music. So why don't we do that, and then we'll say a prayer, and then what I'm going to do. Let me see if I can put your song up here a minute, Sean. And Sean creates music, and they're wonderful. If you have never listened to Sean's music, you should jump on there. And
a lot of it's motivational, but a lot of it is. It's music that supports the conventional marriage, and it's to uplift and inspire people. But in some cases, is to make people kind of look and understand that what is our government doing, what are they doing with our money, and to question the narrative that the mainstream media is putting out there. And there's just so many fake news that's coming from mainstream media, and it's affected so many people. And we're talking good people. There's good people out there. It's just they get so caught up in the psyop brainwashing process. And so I wanted to put something out there that's more motivational to kind of get people to think about what they're watching and what they're hearing, like with this song called Fake News. So
well, and I think that's great, and I really appreciate all the work you do with this, Sean, because your information and your music is just really inspirational, and I appreciate you always. Sean always shares his links on TikTok with me, which is kind of nice. It breaks my day up a little bit with researching stuff that nobody really wants to look at, because it's just like you look at this horrible stuff all the time, which. It's the only way that we get to the bottom of analysis on why things are bad, is that we have to put ourselves in, and it's kind of a sacrifice to do that for those of us who are doing what Renita and Joe is doing, and Mel and Sean and myself. We're immersing ourselves in this to try to figure a way out and finding these solutions. You can't find solutions unless you're actually willing to do the work. And it's not like the most fun thing on the planet. If anybody thinks running for office is a good thing, you know what? I got a lot of news for you. That's why we are getting these psychopaths that fill the seats, because you look at this and you go, who in their right mind would want a job like this? This looks like the worst. I'd rather shovel horse manure all day than deal with this kind of stuff, because there's like nothing fun about it. Okay. There's nothing fun about this. And get in office, if you're an honest person, there's nothing fun about this at all. It's not a fun job, but it's a necessary job. And it's something that if we're going to leave anything for the next generation, we have to be willing to do what Renita and Joe and Mel and Sean and myself and Ralph and all the people that you see here on BNN, who nobody gets paid. Nobody's getting paid for this. This is what adults do. We just take care of business, and that's what's going on here. I would invite everyone to join us in order to take this nation back and put good information out there, because we need more help. I've got some big stuff coming out here that I'm doing, and I'm going to tell you what, pray for all of us every day, because we're putting ourselves in harm's way. I don't really care, it has to be done.
That was a decision Joe and I made almost 4 years ago, was that this was our legacy, that we wanted to be able to have an impact by helping educate the community and getting people involved to learn and understand better what's going on and why they need to step up and be involved.
Definitely. And it's kind of like, for years I worked as a security consultant, usually in the residential sector. And, a lot of my job is teaching people how to do home security like they're supposed to. We've gotten so far away from knowing how to do our own home security. This was common knowledge back in the 1800s and early 1900s. And then Rockefellers came along and they said, hey, let's start creating devices. And let's figure out a way to make money on this, monopolize this, make money, and take the education away from people, make them dependent on us. And so like part of my targeted job was essentially teaching people, how do you do your own home security? It just focuses on 3 really basic steps. It's not a rocket science kind of thing, but this is something that I have been passionate about for years. And when I got blacklisted in the security community, they've done everything they can to suppress this information from getting out. I would do all the research. I would show all the facts about monitoring companies, how they actually do not help people secure their own homes, and the dangers of, how they use third-party companies to come out and install these things. A lot of times they fail in their duties to do so, and it ends up where somebody getting murdered, robbed, or home invasion or something. And
it's a lot of it's just worthless.
Yeah.
Just like the TSA, what do they got? An 85% failure rate. And just, oh, by the way, I do remind them of that when I go through TSA. It's like, I've done it before. I'm like, are you really proud of your job right now, knowing that there's an 85% failure rate in you catching anything? And I say it to them. I'm like, so does this make you proud of your job? Does this make you proud that you gave to the people out there, that you gave people the clot shot? Does this make you proud of you? Does this make you proud, teachers, that you're part of this situation that is about extortion and theft? Does this make everybody proud of what they're doing, or do we walk away from this? When we look at the round robin, they play with the money. Just so everybody knows, every one of our municipalities across the state of Michigan is broke. They are totally and completely broke. If they took the poison pill of the extorted federal tax dollars, which we shouldn't be paying any direct taxes federally. It's unconstitutional. Yep. But they've taken the poison pill. They're taking directives from the globalists that are in charge. Your township cities, your school districts are completely broke and totally dependent on federal dollars. And if it's not there, you got nothing. And then they keep selling you this kind of nonsense. It's a critical state right now. And people are going to have to make very difficult decisions and not be stupid about things like Axe My Tax, which is not telling the whole story, just like the ERISA Act back from 1972. They left the loopholes in. And I don't care how much you want to believe the hopium that these things are going to fix things. They are not. No. This isn't the way to do it. And it's a waste of time, treasure, and everything. Keep your money, because you're going to need it.
Well, we really appreciate your giving us the opportunity to get on and share some information, and hopefully it'll help others learn as well.
Oh, anytime you can be a help to anyone. I'm just out here, picking my way through life, trying to help people have a voice, because it's just like with with the bond issue you have. They're not giving you a voice, and the news media is not going to give you a voice because they're all in it together.
Yeah. Well,
Crazy. Well, let's say a
thank
prayer.
you very much. Yep.
I want to say a prayer, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to full screen this, and I'm just going to let this play through the end until it's done. I'll come back and check on it occasionally, and I think it might be a good thing to just play it, make it, because I think I've got like 11 different venues that we're out on. We've got 2 tour nodes. We're on Odyssey, which is a blockchain, so that pretty much is their nightmare of never going away, those 2 issues. We've got 2 Rumble channels. We've got X. We've got a YouTube channel up now, Facebook. I can post it to several other places. But there are about 11 different ways this thing goes out for being on. So
sounds great.
When you look at the number of people watching, you're only getting a really small slice of it when you start adding this up. And because it's a long format interview, the numbers significantly go up over time because people will, they kind of tune in, live, but it's the documentation of what we're doing that is what's important, because these people are going to be brought to their knees by justice at some point in time. And we're documenting it. We're storing it. We are distributing it everywhere we can, because I don't get paid for this. I fund it, and that's the way it is, because I want my country back. And so it's going to be out there. They cannot take this down. It's never going to come down, and I'm not taking it back. So let's say a prayer here a minute, because I want to ask God's blessing. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you so, so much for Renita, for Joe, for Mel, for Sean, for Ralph, for all the amazing people that are out there. All my buddies up there fighting the DNR up in Gladwin, and they're documenting all of the stuff that is illegally and unlawfully being done by these state and federal agencies, which are an organized crime syndicate. We are so thankful for your blessings and that you're leading us out of captivity, just like you always had your people. We are so thankful for everything you've done. And you know what? Even when things look bad, when it looks the darkest, we know that you're walking with us, that you're showing us the way, and that we're walking through the darkness together as your children, with you leading us, showing us what it is that you would have us do. We just, there's a lot to celebrate. It's just so much to celebrate out there. And seeing your hand at work when things seem to be without hope, and then all of a sudden, you flood us with miracles, and miracles that we cannot possibly even foresee coming in. All we got to do is just keep following you and walking and not giving up and not saying it's hopeless and walking away. I've heard that so many times from people out there. Why should we get involved in it? There's no hope. Well, you know what? I'm going to say there's hope, because you're here. And we trust you. We trust your plan. We trust your leading. You're good all the time. And you know what? We're not going to rely on what we see or hear. We're going to rely on you, and knowing that there's no problem out there that's too big for you. And so we lay all of this at your feet. I ask that you would give your incredible help and favor to and honor the work that Renita and Joe and Mel have done, putting this stuff together tirelessly, without, I'm sure, with a horrible uphill battle, with being maligned and lied about, and having the naysayers attack them, and the things that are in their path that would stop a normal person that doesn't have faith in you. I thank you for that so much, and may your favor just rest strongly upon them, every single thing that they've done, the presentations they put together, and that you would put incredible barriers in the way of the enemy, which is Satan himself. I ask that you would confuse all the demons, that they would not know what to do, that they would be silenced, and that truth would go out forward, your truth, the ultimate truth in all things. We ask that you would help people find you and know that you care about everyone. It's amazing how much you love us. I can't even imagine a human being that has the capacity to put up with this kind of nonsense and still love us when we do things wrong. And all of us are struggling a little bit, trying to do the right thing and figuring out exactly what's right and what's wrong. Please make this clear. Give people a clear mind that can sort through things, discernment and wisdom, and also grace for each other as we make mistakes, as we're trying to find our way out of us. You have been such a wonderful friend to us, and we want to be a friend to you. You're amazing. We love you, and we all ask this all in the name of our precious Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
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 That said, I'm going to give my last minutes that I always do. Everybody go to BrandenburgForGovernor.com, because I'm the best non-conceder who has ever not conceded in the history of the United States of America. And I'd like to have a discussion with President Donald J. Trump about this, in cowboy boots with our horse garb on there. I've got my Ariat stuff on right there, and see who does it better. Just so everybody knows out there, that's my 2022 protest that I've got going on, because they lied, they cheated, they stole, and they're still doing it. So, I ask God's blessings on all of you. Stay in the Word of God, and you will have that discernment. He will lead you through His Holy Spirit into all truth. He promised us that. He promised us that He wouldn't leave us as orphans, and He didn't promise us an easy path, but He promised to walk us through this and be with us every step of the way. So that's what we got. So with that said, I'm going to bless everybody right now, and then I'm going to put this presentation up and just let this roll. I'm going to be working on lawsuits again today, because I have more coming. This is going to be boom. It's like, come at me, guys. I'm just going to come back harder, because I'm sick of it. I'm sick of all of it. So you can attack me all you want. I find it amusing. It doesn't hurt my feelings, because I really don't care. We're going to go down this path to do the right thing, and we're not asking permission from the liars, cheats, and thieves, and the narrative creators. And that when they attack me, it is a badge of honor. I've got a whole wall of them, okay, of being attacked, and I'm pretty much Teflon at this point in time. So I just throw me what you got. It's going to be okay. And with that said, God bless you. To all the good people out there. I mean, there's a division here between good and evil. Believe me, there's a division. Most of the people out there are really, really good. I'm just saying this because for the bad people, we're putting them on notice. Some of us don't run. Some of us will run right into that fire, because we're not gutless cowards like you are. Okay? And the good people that are out there, remember, God is fighting for us. He's fighting for you. He's fighting for me. He's enabling His warriors to go out there and get a job done, and we aren't backing down. Please join us. Please join us. Pray about it. Find out what you feel about it in your spirit, and ask God to tell you. He'll tell you. He'll tell you what's true or not, and question everything. So with that said, God bless you all. God bless all those whom you love, and God bless America. Make it a great day. Have a wonderful weekend. The opportunities to change the world are all around us. We don't come in and change the whole world at once. It's by every act that we do, every word that we say, every smile that we keep on our face, like the Boy Scouts handbook, when we go in and refuse to let them drag you down. It's the ultimate act of defiance, and it's an act of bravery and heroism. So let's do this thing. I'm going to go ahead and put this presentation up, and have a great weekend. I will go ahead and play this. Let's see if I can put it up here, and just watch this presentation and go to their website. It's on my Telegram channel, and I wish you all great success in the coming week with this election. Thank you so much for being on, guys. I love you to pieces, and it was wonderful having you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks, Donna.